This week's parsha, Parshas Vayakhel, it's also Parshas Porah. We read the Maftir and the Haftarah of Parshas Porah. It's the third of the Arba Parshas. In Parshas Vayakhel, we find a pasuk which is really a repetition of a pasuk that already appears in Parshas Kisisa. In Parshas Kisisa, it says that Hashem told Moshe, "I am appointing Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur from Mate Yehuda, from the Shevet of Yehuda, and I will fill him with the Ruach Elokim, with the Spirit of Hashem, the Spirit of God, b'chachma v'sfuna v'das b'chol malacha, with all the knowledge and the understanding and the wisdom that's necessary, lachshev machshavos lasses, in order to make all the intricate plans and the intricate work that's necessary to build the Mishkan and everything that's within the Mishkan, everything that the Mishkan contains." And here again in Parshas Vayakhel, Vayomer Moshe b'nei Yisrael, here Moshe tells Klal Yisrael, Hashem chose Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur from the tribe of Yehuda, Vayimali es Ruach Elokim, and he filled him with the wisdom and the knowledge and the understanding in order to be able to create the gold and the silver and the copper and all the precious stones, in order to create the entire Mishkan, all the things that are in the Mishkan, the clothing of the Kohen Gadol, everything that was necessary for that. Why? Obviously, the Torah, very often when the Torah calls a person by its name, he calls him by his name and his father's name. There was no last names in those days. There was no family names. So the way we identify a person is so and so, ben so and so. But whenever the Torah goes to the third generation, Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur, there must be a reason why the Torah finds it necessary to tell us that twice in Parshas Kisisa and again in our parsha, why the Torah finds it necessary to tell us he was the grandson of Hur and he was from the Shevet Yehuda. What difference does it make that he was the grandson of Hur and that he was from Shevet Yehuda? What do we know about Hur and what do we know about Shevet Yehuda in general? Gemara Sanhedrin says very famously that when Klal Yisrael wanted to make the Egel Azov, they first came to Hur. And Hur said, no, you can't do that. And they tried to explain it to him. You have to do it. You have to help us. When he declined, they killed him. Hur gave his life, Al Kiddush Hashem. He gave his life in sanctifying God's name. That's what we know about Hur. What do we know about Yehuda? We know something similar. Gemara in Saita tells us, Daf Lamed Zayin, that when Klal Yisrael came to the Yam Suf, the raging sea, and nobody wanted to go in first, Hashem said everybody should go. The one tribe that went first was the tribe, according to one of the Shittas, is the tribe of Yehuda. Nachshon ben Imad, Nachshon jumped into the Yam, and then the water split. So Nachshon and Hur, that means Nachshon representing the whole Shevet Yehuda, and Hur specifically, they represent Mesiras Nefesh. When Hashem says to do, they're ready to do, even though it means giving up their lives. In the case of Hur, it was literally giving up his life. In the case of Shevet Yehuda, when they jumped in, they were ready to give up their lives for Kriyas Yamsa. Betzalel comes from this ancestry of Hur and of Shevet Yehuda in general. They were ready to give up their lives. That's why it was Betzalel who was chosen to build the Mishkan. Meshech Chochmah says it goes even further than that. Meshech Chochmah quotes the Chassid Yavitz that says that intellect comes in it causes a person to hesitate in his decision of giving up his life Al Kiddush Hashem. When a person is faced with the terrible nisayon of giving up his life, being Meiser Nefesh Al Kiddush Hashem, if he uses his intellect too much, the intellect causes him not to give up his life. He comes up with all sorts of explanations of why, maybe I can get out of it this way and that way. So in order to be able to be prepared to give one's life Al Kiddush Hashem, a person has to minimize at that moment his intellectual capacity. He has to minimize his intellectual arguments that are telling him do it this way, or maybe you can get out of it this way, because that prevents a person to give up his life. And that's the words that the Chassid Yavitz says. So the Meshech Chochmah says is very, very beautiful. Why Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur from the Shevet of Yehuda was filled with the wisdom and the knowledge and the intellect and all the intricate the talents that are necessary to build the Mishkan. He got that as a result of being a descendant of Hur, who gave up his life, who shut off his intellect, who said, no, now it's time to give up our lives. We don't make all these cheshbonos. The Egel, you're allowed to make it. It's not really Avodah Zarah. No. If it's wrong, it's wrong, and I'm not willing to do it, even if it means giving up my life. Same thing with Nachshon ben Ammonah. Maybe Shevet Yehuda should wait. Maybe a different one of the Shvatim will go into the Yam first. No, right now Hashem said to go in, and I'm ready to go in. I'm not going to think about all different arguments and all the types of intellectual explanations of why I shouldn't go into the Yam. I'm ready to go into the Yam. With that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because of that, gave Betzalel the schar that the descendants of Hur, the descendants of Shevet Yehuda in general, Bechlal, he was the one that had all the knowledge and all the intellect necessary. When a person gives up his intellectual thinkings and cheshbainis for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he gets a reward, that he gets all the intellect and all the knowledge that's available and that's necessary to build the Mishkan. We know from the Parah Aduma is considered a kapara on the Chet HaEgel. Why? Because the Parah Aduma is called a chayk. It's the Chukas HaTorah. It's not completely a chayk. There are parts of it that are understandable, but there are certain parts of the Parah Aduma, the process, that are beyond our intellectual capacity to understand. It's those who are actually preparing the Parah Aduma. They become tamei. They're preparing something which makes the whole Klal Yisrael tahara, and they themselves become tamei. It's counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. But the mitzvah of Parah Aduma, the side of Parah Aduma, is to do something even if you don't understand it, and that is the kapara and the egel. When they made all sorts of cheshbainis, maybe it's possible they calculated how this is not only allowed, it's a mitzvah, and the kapara of that was to bring the Parah Aduma to show, no, we are ready to do something even when we don't understand it, just because it's a mitzvah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When Hashem says to do it, we do it. That's the lesson of Bitzal, being chosen and being filled with all the knowledge and the understanding necessary to build the Mishkan, and that's the lesson of the Parah Aduma as being a kapara for the Chet HaEgel. Good Shabbos. Please don't forget to subscribe. You'll get the video every week by subscribing. Put a like. Thank you very much. Good Shabbos.